We humans have the highest level of brain and intellect.
Right.
We have the biggest burden of disease.
Right.
সবচেয়ে কম রোগ কাদের? যারা হাতে ঘড়ি পরে না। Animals.
Yes.
So animals do not or very rarely have chronic disease. We have always been taught disease management. We were never taught about lifestyle modifications. In my opinion, আমার তো মনে হয় wellness should be more about not just surviving but thriving. You should feel 20 years younger to your biological age, if not 10. Lifestyle is getting worse, like overall. Their profession দিক থেকে wellness is something unfortunately আমাদের ডাক্তারিতে খুব বেশি শেখানো হয়নি.
Living in a country like India, we cannot be that foreign to the term diabetes. Either our close ones or our acquaintances or colleagues, someone or the other around our lives is prone to diabetes. How does this work? Maybe someone is feeling ill, you do a bunch of tests, it reveals that either we have type 1 or type 2 diabetes. We go to a doctor prescribes us certain medicines, tells us to control our sugar intake. We start taking these medicines before or after our meals, and we just proceed with our lives, keeping the burden of diabetes within us. Why am I talking about diabetes? Well, because today's guest is someone special, is a doctor who decided to not just go with the norm of accepting diabetes as a part of our lives. He decided to try and start a fight to prevent diabetes from happening in the first place. Our guest today is Dr. Parikshit Bhattacharya, a doctor who, being a part of the system, is trying to bring about a change in our lives in his own little way. So hello Parikshit da, bolo ki cholche, how's it going?
Everything is all well.
All well. And well থেকে of course a very trending বলতে পারো বা often searched term on Google যেটা আমি দেখছিলাম শুরু করার আগে is the word wellness.
Yes.
তো ওয়েলনেস নিয়ে একটু কথা বলতে চাই কি এই যে ওয়েলনেস জিনিসটা কি হয় একটু বলো আমাদেরকে।
So leaving aside the English meaning of the word,
Yes.
মানে আমাদের প্রফেশনের দিক থেকে wellness is something unfortunately আমাদের ডাক্তারিতে খুব বেশি শেখানো হয়নি. So আমরা যখন ডাক্তারি পড়ি irrespective of কোন প্রফেশন বা স্পেশালিটিতে আমরা যাই, we have always been taught disease management. Now, there's a big difference between disease management and wellness. Classical definition of wellness is, earlier it was the absence of disease or disability.
The WHO says it.
Absolutely. But, I'm not always okay with what the guidelines are. So, in my opinion, আমার তো মনে হয় wellness should be more about not just surviving but thriving. So, optimizing our health. আমাদের medical dictionary or the healthcare system is all about keeping someone disease free. তার মানে diabetes থাকবে না. But before diabetes happens, just an example, someone will be pre-diabetic, someone will be borderline pre-diabetic, so already the health is going downhill. But that is where the intervention of medical professionals like us start, which should not be the case. So wellness হচ্ছে optimizing your health, and in short, for simplistic descriptions, you should feel 20 years younger to your biological age, if not 10. So that is what wellness is all about. I should have great emotional health, physical health, strength, and basic parameters like sleep and stress management. So in my opinion, you should be the best version of yourself. That is what wellness is.
Very strong statement there that we should feel at least 10 years younger than our biological age.
And unfortunately, উল্টোটা হচ্ছে.
Definitely. And that brings me to my second point of discussion, that you said ki diabetes er ব্যাপারে যেটা বললেন ki at a layman search tells me that 10 crore people in India have diabetes. I'm sure it's much more. You can correct me on that.
Yes.
But এই যে diabetes টা like কেন? For example, before we began shooting, I told you that our editor sir, although he seems young, looks energetic, everything fine, looks 10 years younger than he actually is.
True.
But his blood sugar level was constantly above 300. It's quite concerning. So although he used to play cricket, under 19 state খেলেছে, কিন্তু তবেও why? How does this happen? And why are we as Indians so prone to diabetes?
Okay. Now, when we talk about diabetes, it's good to just differentiate the majority diabetes, which is type 2 diabetes.
Right.
একটা হয় type 1, which we can discuss. So type 2, there are a lot of approaches to why the disease happens. some people justify it when they come into my chamber and say amar ma babar chilo amaro hoye geche. So there could be a genetic connection, but type 2 diabetes is simply a lifestyle disease. I tell my patients, হ্যাঁ মা বাবার হয়তো ছিল কিন্তু মা বাবার তো একই রান্নাঘরও ছিল, so you've eaten the same food as your parents all your life. So type 2 diabetes primarily happens because of lifestyle, and a large part of that is the food we eat. In my opinion, I don't think there's any other reason why we're getting such a huge population of diabetes. So now the question is, if food is the cause, if you fix the food, can the diabetes go away? And the answer is yes.
So just to break it down, you're saying the food that we eat is primarily responsible.
Absolutely.
And you're saying that it is preventable, maybe reversible as
Absolutely.
well. That then,
mind you, I was not taught how to reverse it in medical college.
yes, please,
So-
I was scared to dive into this, but I would, since that you've touched the topic, if you can just, how does it happen? Like, আমি তো MBBS পড়িনি কিন্তু
Okay, again, if you just want to know the basic mechanism, we have an organ in the body called the pancreas,
yeah,
and the pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. We've all heard of insulin. Severely diabetic patients, they need to be injected with insulin, but we're not getting into the medicine part. My body is producing insulin.
okay.
Now, in type 2 diabetes, the body is producing a lot of insulin, but I am resistant to that insulin. So, আমার ইনসুলিনটা কাজ করছে না।
We need insulin to keep our sugar under check.
Under control.
And in type 2, this insulin is not working on
It
my
stopped
blood.
working.
Okay.
Why does it stop working? In short, today in Calcutta it's 30 degrees and we're just wearing a shirt and a t-shirt. Suddenly if we move to some very cold part of the country, we start feeling very cold. But now what happens if I stay in that cold climate or a hill station for maybe a few months?
Acclimatize.
So body used to হয়ে গেল। Body used to কেন হলো? To protect me, to keep me alive, to prevent me from falling ill. So our body adapts very quickly if something extreme is hitting us.
Yes.
So the amount of insulin we normally produce, insulin production টা কিন্তু very normal. There's no problem with that. কিন্তু insulin production টা will be decided based on 3 basic parameters. আমি কি খাচ্ছি, কতটা খাচ্ছি, আর দিনে কতবার খাচ্ছি।
কি খাচ্ছি, কতটা
কতটা
খাচ্ছি
খাচ্ছি,
আর
আর
দিনে
দিনে
কতবার
কতবার
খাচ্ছি, এইটা কন্ট্রোল করছে কত
That is
insulin,
deciding the final amount of insulin
কত
the body is
produce করছে
producing.
insulin, ঠিক
And
আছে।
insulin production is happening everywhere. Newborn baby হচ্ছে, you're all
Right.
producing, we're all producing it.
ঠিক আছে।
So now, based on my eating choices, if I am overproducing insulin, then my body starts fearing that insulin. Why? Because too much insulin accumulating in my blood can do only one thing. It can lower my blood sugar to very dangerous levels. Now, very low blood sugar is dangerous. আমার আজকে 300 blood sugar হলো, 5টা রসগোল্লা খেলাম, ওই মুহূর্তে আমার কোনো life risk নেই. But what do you think will happen if my blood sugar drops to 20 or 30? I'm dead.
Right.
So, too much insulin can lower my blood sugar. So now,
So again, sorry to cut you, but just to give an understanding, again, it is your body technically trying to protect you.
protect me from the effects of an overload of insulin.
Insulin.
It's a very small micro adjustment. হতে হতে 5-7 বছর লাগে. I'm just saying it in a very simplistic way. So gradually now my body is becoming resistant to my own insulin.
ঠিক আছে, just to আবার ধরে for viewers, I need insulin to survive.
Yes.
Everybody is producing insulin. Diabetes hole, the production of insulin is too much. Sorry.
Type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes, the production of insulin is too much. And the production of this insulin is controlled by how much I eat, what I eat,
And how many times I'm eating?
how many times.
মানে মুখে কোনো খাবার যদি দিই জল ছাড়া,
Right.
everything will cause a tiny blood sugar spike
ঠিক.
or a large blood sugar spike. So to counter that blood sugar spike, it's natural that my pancreas produces insulin.
Right.
So ওই জন্য বলছি, based on these 3 parameters,
Right.
we are producing a certain amount of insulin. So over the years, if I've been overdoing it, gradually my body starts becoming resistant to my insulin. And যত বেশি resistant হয়, my blood sugar control is not happening anymore.
Absolutely. And it is completely on the pancreas. The entire thing is with the pancreas.
Yes, মানে there are other factors which help us regulate blood sugar, like exercise and all.
Definitely.
But if you're just looking at the pancreas, insulin and food connection, it's as simple as that.
Definitely. ঠিক, established. Please. So now moving on, you were saying that my own body becomes resistant to my insulin.
Own insulin, yes.
So where does this go eventually?
So in medicine, in medical college, I was taught blood sugar বেড়ে গেল, at a certain point cross করে গেল, there's a value called HbA1c, which is a 3-month average blood sugar. If it crosses a certain point, some say 6, some say 6.1, you are now into diabetes. So ebar oshud dewa. Now the problem with most of these medicines, they will either try and force your pancreas to produce more insulin, or they will try and get rid of sugar from your blood through the urine and other pathways. So it's trying to reduce your blood sugar, but it's not addressing the main problem, which is insulin resistance. So it's like আমার জ্বর হয়েছে, আমি ক্যালপল খেলাম, জ্বর কমে যাবে। কিন্তু ধরো আমার ইউরিন ইনফেকশন হয়েছে, আমাকে তো ডাক্তার ক্যালপল দেবে না, রাইট?
জ্বরটা তো সিম্পটম হলো একটা।
So the problem with diabetes treatment across the world, we are treating the symptom, we are not treating the primary cause.
রাইট। সো अगेन এটাকে একটু গোছালে, আমি শ্রমিক স্যারকে নিয়ে গেলাম ডক্টরের কাছে, অনেক হাই সুগার। ডক্টর বললো, ও বাবা অনেক হাই সুগার, গেট এ টেস্ট ডান, HbA1c, ব্লাড সুগার রিপোর্ট পেলাম, and immediately he is given a set of medicines.
Yes.
To now the medicine will either, like you said, it is not
And it will reduce
addressing
the
the
blood
core
sugar.
issue.
It will try and reduce the blood sugar definitely. So your reports look nice.
So my reports look nice, and on pen paper I feel that my blood sugar is under control.
And it does help, of course, because
Definitely.
high blood sugar damages the organs.
Definitely. But then again, the root cause of his
Is
pancreas
not
being getting the adequate amount of rest, or his blood becoming friendly with the insulin again,
it's not
is
being
remaining unaddressed.
Absolutely.
And that is what is primarily happening. I'm sure if I walk with him in any clinic or I go to any doctor, this is what is going to
And
happen.
in a strange way, I don't want to be sounding like I'm just talking against the medical fraternity.
Definitely.
It's not entirely our fault. And আমাদের একটা fault আছে. I'm coming to that later. But the issue is, we were never taught about lifestyle modifications.
Right.
আমার পুরো ডাক্তারি পড়াশোনাতে I did not have a single chapter on nutrition, on movement, on exercise, on stress, sleep. These also affect blood sugar in a way. But again, coming back to the major cause of food.
Right.
So if I have never studied about nutrition, how will I give you an advice how to change nutrition so that you stop becoming insulin resistant?
Right.
So it's that we are just, sounds bad, I call myself, I'm not talking about other doctors, that when I studied medicine, I would say I'm a glorified drug dealer. মানে আমাকে শেখানো হয়েছে রিপোর্ট এই এসছে, ওষুধ দিয়ে দাও। But it's not that I don't give medicines, but
Absolutely.
I try other more established methods, and methods which will last you for the rest of your life to keep you healthy.
Absolutely, because to simply put it, আমাদের কথাটা ঘুরে ওটাতেই আসছে কি আমি কি খাচ্ছি।
Absolutely.
তবে ওটা that is the basic thing,
Absolutely.
that is the basis of the blood sugar spike that you said.
Absolutely.
কি কতবার স্পাইক হচ্ছে, কত দেরি অবধি স্পাইক হচ্ছে, কতটা রেস্ট আমার প্যানক্রিয়াস পাচ্ছে।
Absolutely.
And it is basically going about what I'm putting inside my body.
Absolutely, nothing
And,
beyond that.
Yeah.
You fix the food, you can fix type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. And I read somewhere that you are what you eat, essentially.
Absolutely.
So,
Very true.
by that definition, I'm Kentucky Fried Chicken, maybe. But yes, of course. Now, you address a lot of points there that, you're not taught about addressing nutrition, addressing wellness, addressing stress. That brings me to another chain of thought that, of late, it's very common to get to know that some young person died of a heart attack. বা একদম বাচ্চার ডায়াবেটিস হয়ে গেল, জুভেনাইল ডায়াবেটিস যাকে বলি, বা ওই যে হার্ট অ্যাটাক, ওয়ার্কআউট করতে করতে হার্ট অ্যাটাক হয়ে গেল, বা এই যে বিয়ে বাড়িতে ডান্স করতে করতে হার্ট অ্যাটাক হয়ে গেল। ইটস ইনক্রিজিং নাও, অর ইজ ইট উই আর গেটিং টু নো অ্যাবাউট ইট মোর? এনি থটস অন দিস?
If you look back 200 years ago, তখন মানে life was very different.
Right.
মানে we are seeing more incidents, social media makes us more aware of this.
Absolutely.
So we are seeing more of it. But তাও বলতে গেলে, if you're looking at why are people at that age having cardiac arrests, lifestyle is getting worse, like overall.
Sedentary, যেটা আমরা বলি।
Sedentary, poor sleep, more stress, bad habits, smoking, alcohol. So all of these are going to contribute majorly to cardiovascular disease, like heart disease or high blood pressure. But one of the major triggers for cardiovascular disease is also insulin resistance. Because insulin resistance means only one thing: your pancreas is trying to compensate and produce more insulin. So basically your blood keeps on getting flooded with insulin. Now insulin also,
one second, so just to
আমি একটা মিষ্টি খেলাম,
ঠিক,
আমার ব্লাড সুগার বাড়লো, আমার প্যানক্রিয়াস ইনসুলিন তৈরি করবে, ইনসুলিন ব্লাড সুগারটাকে আবার নামিয়ে আনার চেষ্টা করবে। and when I say blood sugar নামানো, it's transporting the glucose energy into the body cells for different requirements. কিন্তু I'm insulin resistant, তো ব্লাড সুগারটা অ্যাডিকুয়েটলি নামলো না, তখন প্যানক্রিয়াস কী করবে? because the pancreas works on feedback, it doesn't have its own brain. তো প্যানক্রিয়াস রিয়েলাইজ করলো আরে ব্লাড সুগার কমলো না, চলো আরও
ধরো
in an effort to get the blood sugar down. But it's just becoming a vicious cycle.
তো isn't it thinky after a point আমার ব্লাডে তো খালি ইনসুলিনই থাকবে, বডিতে খালি ইনসুলিনই ঘুরছে।
And diabetes treatment across the world is very glucose centric. Glucose centric মানে test the blood sugar. No one tests the insulin. So if I just do a simple blood test for insulin, I can see whether I'm insulin resistant or not.
Right.
It's the simplest test.
How old is the insulin in my blood? Maybe.
How old মানে?
মানে ইনসুলিন তো ডেইলি প্রোডিউস হতেই থাকছে, ইটস স্টেইং ইন মাই ব্লাড, রাইট?
মানে if you're resistant, if you're sensitive, it's being used up.
It's being used up, but if I'm not sensitive anymore, then it's staying in my blood.
Yes, it's staying in your blood. So now two more things are happening. Too much insulin in the blood causes more fat storage. So you are converting glucose into body fat. So that's why there's a higher chance of body fat accumulation. That could be subcutaneous fat, which we see. It could be visceral fat, we hear about things like fatty liver.
Right.
Or it could be even things like triglycerides, lipids going up. And another thing
somewhere unnatural, basically.
And another thing, too much insulin is a very inflammatory hormone. So when I connected insulin to cardiovascular disease, inflammation in the vessels,
right,
can lead to vascular damage,
which means leads to heart attacks.
Not directly, but in short, if there's a lot of vascular damage, inflammation, our body tries to repair it by depositing cholesterol in those places. And if there's repeated cholesterol, narrowing, and then we can have a heart attack. So again, coming back to the question of 40 years old, it's a conglomeration of all of this. And yes, post-COVID, incidents have gone up a lot more. Some say it's the COVID virus itself. I have come across a lot of data where even the vaccine, certain vaccines might have induced something called myocarditis. Myocarditis is inflammation. So any word which ends with itis is inflammation. So all of these factors, and I think people are not looking after their lifestyle at all despite this.
You are saying post-COVID it has
yes,
there are chances
obviously
that
it's not that observational. There's been a lot of data coming in. Okay, I don't know whether the data is being made easily available to the public or not, but a lot of data has come in. I have certain data which I can share at any point of time, which has shown that young people, as young as 13 to 17-year-old children,
okay,
who of course don't party all night, don't smoke, don't have alcohol,
but have taken the vaccine,
and they've had myocarditis, which is very unusual. I personally have had 8 close friends who have died in the last 4 years, and they're much younger than me. They had no vices, they were overall pretty good health.
It sounds a lot like you are describing me, but okay.
And yeah, even my mother, she was overall healthy, suddenly she had a stroke. So, it's very hard to figure it out, but it's just that we look at some anecdotal evidence and think that may be the cause.
An indirect question, not related to what we were talking about, একটু বেশি ডায়াবেটিস নিয়ে হয়তো আলোচনা হয়ে গেল, কিন্তু again ঘুরে ফিরে it's a big part of our lives, there's nothing no running away from it. And why is Indian culture, celebration বলো, in good times, in bad times, in celebration, in কারোর শ্রাদ্ধ বাড়ি হোক বা ঈদ হোক বা পুজো হোক, why is everything so dependent? I was thinking about this, why is everything so dependent on celebration means rich food, and rich food that is not exactly healthy, and is it only something that happens in India, or is this a global thing, or
food has a lot of aspects to it.
Definitely a lot of social and cultural aspects to it also, I understand.
There's an emotional aspect to food.
Absolutely.
We feel
but why
good.
is for instance, if I don't have dinner, and the way you've only told me, if you're not hungry, don't eat.
Absolutely.
But if I don't have dinner, it's a huge cultural social problem. So is this more in India, naki?
No, definitely I've seen it's a lot more in India.
Definitely.
A good way to put it is, food is also an expression of love in our country. Everyone gets horribly worried if you're not eating.
Right.
So if there's a festive occasion, a celebration, it's food. And yes,
We are not used to hearing no to some elaborate platter.
naturally.
It's rather taken as an insult. Maybe. Yeah.
and another funny thing about food is, this is again just linking back to the diabetes. Certain things about food, yes, ওপর আমরা সবাই জানি মিষ্টি খেলে সুগারের জন্য খারাপ, বাট মিষ্টি কথাটা, it's so weirdly ingrained into our belief system that it is good. একটা রোগা পাতলা বাচ্চা দেখলে আমি গালটা টিপবো না, একটা গোল গাল বাচ্চা দেখলে কি বলি, কি মিষ্টি দেখতে, কি মিষ্টি দেখতে, মেয়েটা কি মিষ্টি দেখতে। সো মিষ্টি ইজ কাইন্ড অফ correlated to being good, and that's why anything mishti mukh karo. Got it?
Right, abundance.
So, abundance. And if the love is abundant, we want more food.
Definitely.
So we are overeating, certainly. As a population, for many years, we have been overeating as well. It's not just the bad type of food.
Right.
I mean, a simple kotha boli, it's not that the rasgulla or that chocolate or that pizza is dangerous in itself. It's how much we are having.
Yes.
And আমি যদি বলি আমার আইসক্রিম ভালো লাগে and I want to have an ice cream for breakfast, lunch and dinner, even you know it's dangerous for me.
Absolutely.
But আমি যদি বলি I just want to have a half a teaspoon once in a while, you know it's not a problem. So the total consumption of food and calories and sugary things does make a difference.
Anything known as magic food, যেটা হয় কি, which I know there is something called magic food which you have prescribed to my father. I wanted to talk about it. Ki, you were saying that your brain tricks you into thinking that you're hungry.
Correct. Our perception towards hunger is very flawed, and at times we can't blame ourselves. জন্ম থেকে যদি টাইম দেখে ঘড়ি দেখে খাওয়ানো হয়, our body very quickly gets
Lunch
used
time,
to it.
breakfast time, dinner time,
These
right.
definitions exist because of time. We humans have the highest level of brain and intellect.
Right.
We have the biggest burden of disease.
Right.
সবচেয়ে কম রোগ কাদের? যারা হাতে ঘড়ি পরে না। Animals.
Yes.
So animals do not, or very rarely have chronic disease. So if they're not having chronic disease, what happens? It is primarily because breakfast, lunch, dinner korche na. They are eating when they really need to. But we humans are eating ঘড়ি দেখে, আমরা খাচ্ছি pleasure,
Occasion dekhe. And
emotions,
a lot of times out of
social,
compulsion. Yes.
and the compulsion, the root. So because of all this, we are overeating. Now talking about magic food. Now are you asking me about the magic food in terms of diabetes?
In general, I want to talk about this, that our brain tricking us into thinking that we are hungry.
Yes. If you are genuinely hungry, you should feel it. Now, if you've learned how to get out of the trap of this time-based eating and emotional eating and all, sometimes we tend to feel hungry when our body is low on salt and electrolytes.
Right.
So, salt and electrolytes, something like sodium, potassium, magnesium, a lot of mineral electrolytes. So, if my body is low on that, sometimes we tend to feel hungry. So this is an experiment I tell everyone to do, just to quickly understand আমার কি সত্যি খিদে পেয়েছে।
ঠিক।
খিদে পাচ্ছে, just take a glass, put a pinch of salt, drink it and see how your body is reacting. If you realize খিদে চলে গেল, that actually means you are not hungry in the first place.
Very important. আবার বলছি, যদি খিদে পাচ্ছে, take a glass of water,
take a pinch of salt. Yes, that salt, the amount, the dose should be regulated by a physician based on your overall health and if you're on medicine.
Absolutely.
And then if you see khide chole gelo within a few seconds, it probably means you were not hungry in the first place.
My body was just a little low on
salt, so you kind of started feeling hungry. And the usual thing is what we do, khide pele amra khawar khuji. Now think 8 out of 10 random foods, they will have salt in them. So we eat the food, salt ao gelo, khideo chole gelo. So why not try removing the food, the calories, the insulin spike,
yes,
and just give yourself the salt, and salt doesn't cause an insulin spike. That way, once you've learned how to identify real hunger, half of the job is done.
It's in the head, like we say. I'm thinking about this, because ultimate journey of whatever, however delicate the food is or however tasty it is, the journey is just from here to here. After that,
it's all automatic.
ফুড ফার্মারের একটা ভিডিও দেখলাম কি ইন্ডিয়া ইজ মেজরলি প্রোটিন ডেফিশিয়েন্ট।
Yes.
এটা কত ট্রু and how
very
concerning?
True. I've seen even hardcore non-vegetarians in India struggle to meet their bare minimum protein requirements.
Hardcore non-vegetarians
তারাও protein requirement meet করতে পারে না।
ঠিক।
So quickly, what are the side effects of not having enough protein? The protein is brilliant for muscle, for skin, hair, cartilage, enzymes, a lot of things. And in short, for strength. There's no better feeling in the world than being strong and having that basic ability to move like a normal person.
Absolutely.
And the biggest curse amongst the elderly population today is lack of strength. It's not that সবার diabetes আছে বা obese হয়ে গেছে. So we start losing muscle after a certain age, and that makes us very, very immobile, prone to falls, injuries. So why are we so protein deficient? It's not that I intentionally had less proteins. It's not that my parents intentionally gave me less proteins. I feel it's a lot to do, leaving aside the socio-economic part,
Right.
I feel it's a lot to do with the traditional and cultural eating patterns. All my life, when I never understood all this, because my medical college forgot to teach me, what have I eaten? I've eaten rice or roti, which is hardly no protein. Then we have a vegetables.
Right. Rice, roti, no protein.
Vegetables no protein. তারপর একটা ডাল হয়তো থাকলো না, ডাল is not as high protein as it's made out to be. It's more carbohydrates, less protein. Finally, আমি non-veg ডিশটায় পৌঁছালাম। Mutton, chicken, fish, egg or paneer.
হ্যাঁ আগে এত ভালো এত রাইস নিলাম, এতটা ডাল নিলাম।
By the time I'm reaching the real protein or the good quality protein, পেট তো ভরে গেল। So that is one big reason why we are always trying to meet up.
ঠিক. Just putting it across again. ঠিক বলে, now that you've said it, I realize কি একটা বাটিতে ডাল থাকলো, রাইস থাকলো, and মাংসটা লাস্টে, হ্যাঁ, special. That's how
sequencing of
even though there is no dearth of মাংস, but it will still be treated that way. কি আগে রাইস ডালটা খেয়ে নাও,
maybe it is the tastiest thing, so let's
মা বলবে কি এটা খেয়ে নাও, আগে খেয়ে নাও, তারপরে
we have a limited capacity. পেট ভরে গেল আর খেতে পারলাম না। But before we even know it, we are very, very short on protein.
It's quite concerning again.
Very concerning. It is probably the most concerning thing in the dietary platform right now.
ঠিক. Last two questions, Dada, তারপরে I'll let you go. One thing I wanted to ask you may sound a little dramatic, but if hypothetically you were the food minister, I'd say, our nation, one or two things that you would do immediately.
The first thing which I would do is change the dietary guidelines. And this is again, some people might not like what I'm about to say. You open ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, or NIN is the nutritional body of India. Okay. You open any government website and the way they tell you to eat, it is loading you with carbohydrates. Now, it's again, ice cream example, it's not that the carbohydrate is the problem.
Right.
But if you are already insulin resistant, some statistics say that 70% of the worldwide population is now insulin resistant. 70%.
70% of the worldwide population
and they have no idea they are
insulin resistant. That means
they're not yet diabetic.
Blood is starting to resist the insulin.
So they're not yet diabetic.
It's deeply concerning.
Yes. So if I'm feeding them with carbohydrates, a large amount, carbohydrates is that type of food which primarily converts into glucose. Proteins don't convert into glucose much, fats don't convert at all into glucose. So the ICMR dietary guidelines, and this is coming down from the WHO dietary guidelines, they are all asking you, so there's something called a food pyramid.
Right.
Food pyramid is just like a triangle. So triangular niche is the broader part. The broader part is what you should eat more of. As the triangle goes up, it narrows down. So the lower part is filled with grains and pulses and vegetables.
Okay.
So that's more of carbohydrates. So আমাদের বলা হয় এটা বেশি খেতে, and there's even a number. Most guidelines, again available on Google, will tell you have at least 300 grams of carbohydrates daily. Then তারপর উপরে গেলে smaller amount is protein. একদম টপে গিয়ে fat কম. That is making our population more and more vulnerable. So the first thing which I would do is change the dietary guidelines.
Would you invert the pyramid?
Just exactly, you're right. Ulto kore ditam. So, and that's what I do. Ulto kore, I am seeing such huge improvements in people's diabetes. So that's the weird thing. Now again, we can go on about this forever. Keno erokom hoyeche. But that's a topic for another day.
Maybe another day. You answered my next question. Maybe যেটা জিজ্ঞেস করতে যাচ্ছিলাম. But one thing that you would want to vent about this current system that is there. You've spoken a lot, but in short, যদি একটা vent করতে হবে কিছু একটা.
We have to treat. First of all, we'd want to put nutrition into the syllabus of most doctors. Okay, so that is a huge omission. So, আমি দেখছি অসুস্থ এসছো, I wait till you get unwell. Another problem with medicine is we intervene when the disease is already there. So, what is a heart attack? হয়ে গেছে যা হওয়ার. We don't worry about what's happening prior to the heart attack, but it takes almost a decade for the clogging to happen, the atherosclerosis to happen. So one is including nutrition.
A decade for that to happen.
At least. We say sudden heart attack. Okay. But it started 10 years ago and we have no idea. So put nutrition into the syllabus of doctors.
In schools as well, maybe?
Definitely. So basically educating people.
Right.
Okay. And I'd love to go to the parliament and educate our politicians because they are the ones who are going to eventually.
And maybe I'd like to see a statistic on the percentage of our politicians who are actually obese and unhealthy.
Let's not be so mean to them. Look at the percentage of doctors who are fit and healthy.
That's a good note to end on. But yes, of course, thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
You are an inspiration, you are an elder brother, and thank you so much for
Thanks for having me.
making time. And that concludes our episode. And if you like the video, please let us know. Kemon Laglo video ta. Let us know your opinion in the comments. And please, of course, don't forget to share this with your friends who you think may get some benefit out of this. And please remember to like, share and subscribe. Until then, I will see you in another video, Taka Hobe, with maybe another interesting guest. Thank you and bye.